Hey, welcome in, everybody. Brad Logan here on the Talk of Champions. Ben Garrett is off today. They had a great show, they being Ben and Zach Berry, right below this one, and pretty much got into everything that's going on in regards to fall camp. Did have a chance to visit with John David Baker. If you look right below us, that podcast that happened yesterday between Zach and Ben Garrett happened right here yesterday. So we encourage you to go right below us, and you can click on that and watch the show from yesterday. Once again, John David Baker available to the media yesterday. Jay Thompson had a really good story, by the way, on John David Baker, the new OC for the Rebels, and they had a chance to visit with John David Baker yesterday, and I thought it was an opportunity to well, let me just say this. A couple of things stood out for me on that interview. Number one, John David Baker is not coming in and trying to undo all the good that Joe Judge has implemented, and then that Charlie Weiss obviously implemented when he was the offensive coordinator at Ole Miss. That's obviously not happening. What he's coming in is tweaking some things to his liking and obviously working in concert with Trinidad Chambliss and working with Joe Judge. It's been very apparent that both these two guys, being Joe Judge and Trinidad Chambliss, work very, very well together. We see some of these highlights as we've been able to get a little bit of practice here and there. We'll have an opportunity to visit and get some highlights from practice tomorrow and get a couple of players, and we'll go from there. It's been very tight-lipped at fall camp. We will have Harry Harrison of the Ole Miss Radio Network on later on in the week. We've got a really interesting conversation with Tyler Horka. Tyler, of course, many might remember, covered Mississippi State for the Jackson Clarion Ledger a couple of years ago. He was in Notre Dame for a couple of years, or I should say covered Notre Dame for a couple of years. Now he's covering the University of Texas. He's with On Texas and the On3 affiliate, and we'll have a chance to visit with him and going to ask him about the SEC, going to ask him about Texas, ask him about what he thinks about the Longhorns and Arch Manning, and, of course, ask him about Trinidad Chambliss and the Ole Miss Rebels. That date with Ole Miss and Texas coming up, obviously later on in the year, and definitely want to ask what the favorite food joint is going to be, what food place that Ole Miss fans might want to be able to enjoy in Austin. Austin, Texas is a wonderful, wonderful city. I've only been once, and when I was able to go, it was basically, I want to say it was the year that Ole Miss returned the trip to Oxford, and it was the Harry Harrison call. Oh, by the way, I just spoke about Harry. It was the call to where they had the punt return. and it was obviously Hugh Freeze, the head coach. I want to say it was 2013. That was a fun football game. That was one in which Ole Miss lost that game in Oxford. They would return that trip to Austin and win that game. So we'll get Tyler and get his thoughts on that Longhorn offense and that Longhorn defense. Look, this is a big year for Steve Sarkisian. This is a big year for him, and we've already seen Arch Manning. All of the pomp and circumstance with Arch, but Cam Coleman and we'll hear from Tyler in just a little bit, but talking about that Longhorn defense and about everybody's kind of talking about the offense. What about Will Muschamp coming back and being a very, very big part of that Longhorn defense? So we'll talk with Tyler about that. Once again, we had a couple of practice notes that we were showing you here as we had a chance to go to practice earlier this week. And it's just interesting to see Pete Golding there at the beginning of the year. We, as head coach, excited to see what's going to happen in a couple of weeks in Nashville with Ole Miss and Louisville, a formidable opponent. We'll have Jody Demling coming up tomorrow at 2 o'clock. We'll visit. He's part of the Louisville Cardinal Radio Network, and we'll get more into game week, if you will, with Louisville. And so we're excited to bring that along for you. Obviously, couldn't do what we do with all of our sponsors today. We're so grateful to have Allen Samuels, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram, our talent presenting sponsor here on the Talk of Champions. We'll hear from all of our sponsors here in just a little bit, but we couldn't do what we do without our talent presenting sponsor, Mason, Greta, and, of course, Brian, the general manager, the whole team there at 662-234-8000 at AllenSamuelsOxford.com. They'll take care of you. They're selling vehicles left and right, so we appreciate them being a vibrant part of the show. Thanks, everybody, obviously, for jumping in the chat and sharing and liking the show. If you're watching on YouTube, we appreciate that very much. We see highlights for practice. And, look, this is a situation where we're excited about Nashville. We're excited about Louisville. And I asked Chuck Rounsaville specifically about that game, Ole Miss and Louisville. And I really wanted to ask Chuck, and I asked him, but he said he wasn't going to go any further than basically Louisville. And he's basically taking the Pete Golding approach of, I've seen the schedule. I know what the conference games are, the non-conference games are. At the end of the day, it starts and ends with Louisville, because you don't win that first one, then you don't want to say the season's over, but my goodness, it's going to be difficult to mount that 10 or 11 win season if you don't win that first one in Nashville. I think the Rebels do come away victorious, but I do think it's going to be more of a challenge than some people are thinking. If you look at this Ole Miss team, I think there are a lot of questions heading into fall camp. I keep saying fall camp. It's definitely not fall weather, but I think the questions will flesh themselves out. I thought that Zach made a great point yesterday, and by the way, you'll hear me reference Zach Berry. You look right below this podcast. The one with Zach Berry is right below it. He, along with Ben Garrett, and they talked about the different positions and the depth at wide receiver. And I think not enough people are talking about receivers like Samari Reed. And we talked about Gill and Cook, the receivers from Syracuse that have transferred over. And obviously everybody's kind of waiting to hear the name Caleb Cunningham, and you hope that you hear him really soon. And I'm really hoping that the Rebels, we may have some sound issues. We'll apologize. We'll check on that. But we'll get to the interview with Tyler Horka here in just a moment. But we're really hoping that those questions are answered. And so my question to you and everyone in the chat is, what position are you excited about seeing on the opening game? So we'll continue to monitor the chat as let me check the sat link here just for. I am rebooting the satellite link, so hopefully you guys can hear me in the chat. Thank you, Sawyer. Yes, linebacker is a position I think is one that everybody's kind of looking at. And the question is, as we understand the importance of the starters, the first tier, the question is what about the second and third tier? I don't know. I'm excited to see. We know, and we've heard everything about the green dot. We've heard about Keaton Thomas, and we've heard about the different positions. We understand about Luke Farrelly. Taj Butler is going to be a big part of that linebacker room. Jacoby Hobson, you hope he is. And then Chuck pointed out there are transfers that could be a big Tony Mitchell, a transfer from Mississippi State, definitely a linebacker that Ole Miss is hoping to add some depth. Yep, thanks, Revolution. All right, good. We got that fixed. Yeah, I mean, it's tight end. I think Crayon Eater, if you look at the tight end room, to me, that may have possibly the best depth on the roster, because we had a chance to visit with Luke Haas just last week, and he's excited about the season. You start talking about Caleb Odom, that tight end room, along with Brady Prescorn and others in that tight end room. So I think they very well could be a spot to where Ole Miss could be in a really pretty good position. I'm excited that it's been a lot of positive conversations had about Enoch Wango at right tackle. So excited to see what can happen across that offensive line. I've reset the satellite link, so hopefully the audio is working for you guys out there as we get ready to bring in Tyler Horka here in just a moment. Ben Garrett will be back with us tomorrow. Obviously, we'll have players. I'll have an opportunity to see practice for a little bit tomorrow, so hopefully things will turn out much better tomorrow from an audio side of things. Apologize about that. We're going to bring in Tyler Horka here after we hear from a couple of our sponsors. Once again, couldn't do what we do without all of our sponsors. Of course, Allen Samuels, Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram, our title and presenting sponsor, and Riverland Roofing. Riverland Roofing has been with Ben and I, Ben longer than me, but he's been with us for quite a while. That's riverlandroofing.com. Give him a call at 662-644-4297. We appreciate everything that Riverland Roofing does. We'll take a timeout and come back. Tyler Horka from Inside Texas right after this.
Homes and businesses from the whims of nature. You need more than just quality materials. You require Riverland Roofing. Licensed, insured, and certified, Riverland Roofing offers not only the assurance of excellence, but a tailored approach to your unique structural needs and budget. To learn more about what Riverland Roofing can do for you and the community, call them at 662-644-4297 or visit riverlandroofing.com.
Hey, Rebels, your truck is here. Allen Samuels Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Oxford presents the all-new Ram Rebel. It's Ram, the Rebel way. Send an unmistakable signal. Rebel 24/7. Ram Rebel from your friend in the car business. Allen Samuels Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Oxford.
Come by, let's be friends.
Tell my kids, you do your part, I'll do mine. That's teamwork. It's the same thing I tell my clients. It's their job to get well. It's my job to get them the most money possible to do just that. I want you to get back to enjoying the life we all love here in North Mississippi. If you're hurt in a traffic accident, an 18-wheeler wreck, or have insurance trouble, call 601-720-3541. That's my cell. If you call, I'll answer.
Make your first call to the Hearn Law Firm.
One team, one mission, introducing one plan that changes the rules. The One Plan, fiber and wireless for $99 a month. One plan, one price, zero compromises, guaranteed. The One Plan for everyone, only from C-Spire, customer inspired.
Life is made up of moments. We care about those moments as much as you do. We are Modern Woodmen, a fraternal financial services organization, member-owned, not stockholder-run. Since 1883, we've supported families, strengthened communities, and helped people reach their financial goals. From protection to saving to retirement planning, let us help you plan for those special moments in your life. We are Modern Woodmen of America.
And we appreciate Shed Hunger of Modern Woodmen of America. You can reach Shed today at 662-442-4297. 4723 for more information, including any type of life insurance, annuities, mutual funds, and variable annuities. Also, special thank you to our friends at Game Day Haircuts of Oxford. Ben and I had a chance to drop by there the other day. They're, of course, at 1735A University Avenue. Give them a call, 662-380-5658 to book your favorite stylist, or go online to GameDayHaircuts.com and be sure and follow them on Facebook at Game Day Haircuts of Oxford. Now let's visit with Tyler Horka of Inside Texas here on the Talk of Champions. Man, we have Tyler Horka, does a great job covering college football. Now he's with the Texas beat. He's been with Notre Dame. He's also covered Mississippi State at all points in between. Tyler, thanks for jumping on just for a few minutes today.
Yeah, man, we're talking college football, actual college football. We're seeing these guys on the field now and whatnot, so it's nice. It's good to be back.
Absolutely. It's good to see you again. He's currently with the Inside Texas, an affiliate of On3. You can follow him on X at TV Horka. I want to start with Notre Dame, Tyler. It's really an interesting story with Carr and all the things that come with Notre Dame. I know you were very close to that program for a number of years. Just had a chance to visit with you a little bit ago. Former coach Brian Kelly has the Irish going undefeated. The schedule looks like there's a chance they might can do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the biggest thing with the schedule, on top of everyone saying, oh my gosh, it's so easy, like who are they going to lose to here? The biggest games are not right out of the chute. They're not right out of the jump like they were last year. I mean, Notre Dame was 0-2 last year and the sky was falling, right? But then they rattle off 10 wins because those are their 10 easiest opponents. They played their 2 toughest ones right away. And then Notre Dame had like a legit case to get into the college football playoff. They were the last team on the outside looking in, right? Committee probably got it right, putting in Miami, the team that beat them, ahead of them. But now Notre Dame doesn't have to play Miami until November 7th. And Notre Dame gets that game at home. Marcus Freeman's been very good primetime games under the lights at Notre Dame Stadium. So I think this will be the first time that Marcus Freeman gets through the month of September with an undefeated record, if you can believe that. It's his 5th year at the helm, and he's never made it through September with a 0 in the loss column. I think that happens this year by way of the schedule, but also by way of this team being really, really good. So, Brad, you're probably not looking at any potential Notre Dame losses until mid-October when the Irish go to Provo to play BYU. That's going to be a tough one at the end of, I think it's 7 or 8 games without a bye. Like, that's a tough stretch. And then, of course, the Miami game. Get through those two, or even just go 1-1 and win everything else, then you're talking about an 11-1 team and a college football playoff team.
SMU possibly give them any trouble, you think, in the latter part of the year?
Marcus Freeman's also been really good at Notre Dame Stadium on Senior Day. This will be the toughest opponent that the Irish have played in the Freeman era on Senior Day, but I don't see the Irish losing at home in their last game of the year at home.
You saw a lot of Carr, quarterback. How does he, going kind of up against Trinidad Chambliss, the quarterback at Ole Miss? It's kind of at the top of a lot of lists in the SEC and really throughout the country. Not necessarily their game against each other, but how are they one-on-one, and who do you think gets the edge of who might be the best quarterback this year?
Yeah, they're 2 of the 5 best quarterbacks in college football, that's for sure. I wouldn't be surprised if both of them end up in New York City for a Heisman Trophy weekend there because I think they both have that potential. I'm glad you mentioned their games, though, because 2 totally different quarterbacks, right? Trinidad Chambliss can do a little bit of everything. CJ Carr is more of that pinpoint, accurate passer. Likes to stay in the pocket. There's Notre Dame fans saying that they would have liked for him to move around a little bit more last year. And I think you do see that because that comes with being a second-year starter, right? You get a little bit more comfortable doing those things. But just in terms of throwing the football, CJ Carr is up there with anyone in the country's arm talent. But this is college football, and really at any level of football now, I do like my quarterback to have a few more elements to his game, and Chambliss definitely has that. So, yeah, the way that they stack up head-to-head, 2 totally different players, but that doesn't mean they're not, on different ends of the spectrum in terms of talent and whatnot, because I do think they're 2 the 3 to 5, maybe even 1-2, however you look at it, quarterbacks in the country.
Staying in the SEC, it's kind of Texas, Georgia, Ole Miss, maybe Alabama, maybe LSU. That's kind of at the top right now. Where do you see the SEC heading into the season as your top probably 4 or 5 teams?
I want to get out ahead of this. I think it's a little bit of a Georgia redemption year or revenge year, whatever you want to call it. Like, you still got the quarterback there, the head coach. We all know who he is and what he's done in his career. And then Georgia is Georgia. Like, even last year, you saw it against Ole Miss where like that was one of the better games in college football. And both of those teams could have easily won the national championship. But it's hard to win national championships in this 12-team format, right? Like you can look really good in the Sugar Bowl, but then get beat by a really good team in the next game. And then all of a sudden you're not, in it for the natty. So I think the SEC, like you're saying, has a lot of teams that are going to be right there where you watch Texas and Ole Miss play in October, and you're probably going to be saying both of those teams could win the national championship. And I wouldn't be surprised if one of them does. But again, I think Georgia probably deserves the nod at the top right now, just because I think Kirby Smart's going to be on one.
Do we have a nine-win SEC team make the college football playoff this year?
My bad, Brad. There's a freaking leaf blower going on. It's yard
I got
day.
you. No problem. Do you think the SEC has a 9-win SEC team this year make the playoff?
I mean, you almost saw it last year with Alabama, right? I get it. They had 10 wins, but they also had the 3 losses. So you're talking about a 9-3 team that could get in. I think it's possible because I don't think somehow, Brad, we're not talking enough about LSU and Lane Kiffin. Like, he was kind of the media darling, as he always is, at the beginning of the offseason. But like right now, as we look at it and we look at these rosters, what's stopping LSU from winning 9 games and having that argument at the end of the year saying, hey, we should be a playoff team? I mean, we've seen South Carolina have that same argument recently, right? Like, I think Missouri was even maybe a 9-3 team. Like, hey, what about us? So if you're talking about LSU being 9-3, Lane Kiffin, Baton Rouge, the purple and gold of the Tigers, like that's a lot of polling power there to get in over. I mean, that's another thing. Like, we don't know what the other teams are going to look like that are trying to get in at like 10-2 or whatever. Maybe Notre Dame is one of those. I'm not sure. But yeah, there's going to be a lot of parity in the SEC, which means there's going to be some teams that lose 2 to 3 games that feel like they're a playoff team. And I think we're going to have another really loud first week of December with a lot of teams lobbying to try to get in.
Do you like this current setup in college football, the postseason as it is? Would you change anything? And if you would, what would you propose?
I was literally just talking about this on our InsideTexas.com message board. I don't know, man. Like, I think the 4-team playoff was working better than the 12-team playoff, to be completely honest with you. But without the 12-team, you lose the home playoff games. You lose those bowl games that I was talking to you earlier about where, I mean, the Sugar Bowl has been phenomenal over the years. And now that is a game that is in the playoff every year. And like the winner of that has a chance to win the national championship game. So yeah, I remember watching that thing thinking, this is what the 12-team playoff is about. And, these home games where Indiana goes to Notre Dame for the first ever on-campus college football playoff game, like that's what it's all about. But then you get some of the teams that are in this thing and they have no business being there. Like, we all love Tulane, but that wasn't a very good football game. And you've seen a few of those over the years. So I don't know. It seems like it's going to 24, right, Brad? But that just seems like a little too much to me.
Ole Miss made a pretty good run last year all the way to the Fiesta Bowl, 1 win away from the opportunity to play Indiana and win a national championship. Obviously, we've seen the storylines unfold. I'd love your thoughts, being someone that's been in Mississippi. What were your thoughts watching Ole Miss make that run with Lane Kiffin and then all the off-the-field shenanigans, and now you got a former Delta State coach and player take over Ole Miss, take over the kind of like the stuff you see in movies?
Yeah, I was just, kind of glad that Ole Miss didn't fall on its face after Lane Kiffin left, right? And it was weird with Lane Kiffin still wanting to coach. I think you and I would probably both agree that wouldn't have worked. But then you didn't know how it was going to go thereafter without the head coach that led them to that great regular season. Sure enough, they show up in the playoff and they look really dang good, man. Like, I keep saying that Sugar Bowl was one of the games of the year, and it didn't matter that they lost their head coach because they were just a really, really good football team. And I think Ole Miss has that again this year, man, because like when you bring that quarterback back and he can do all those same things that we saw last season, it's going to be electrifying again. I think we're going to be right in the mix again. They've kind of ascended. Like, Lane Kiffin helped, obviously, and was the catalyst for it, but they've ascended into that rare air of college football where, you want to know what Ole Miss is doing every single weekend, because they've got the potential to really go out there and beat anybody.
Let's talk about Texas for a moment. 10-3 last year, 6-2 in the conference. And this is crazy for me to say this, but I'm just saying what other people are saying. How important is this season for Steve Sarkisian? And I hate to use the word hot seat, Tyler, but it feels like the roster's loaded and everybody's excited about Arch Manning and Cam Coleman. It feels like and I hate to say this again, please correct me if I'm wrong, a make or a break year for.
It kind of is a make or break year, sure. I think if you go 9-3 again, then everyone's going to be questioning, like, okay, if this is your best roster, then why aren't you 10-2? Why aren't you 11-1? Why aren't you 12-0? Reason for that being is the schedule is really hard. I think that's what could trip Texas up. Like, who else is playing Ohio State in the non-con in terms of the national title contenders? Nobody. Texas is, and they're doing that for the second consecutive year. Now, you've got to avoid, like, if your schedule is going to be this hard, though, you can't lose to a 4-8 Florida type of team. I think not enough Texas fans point to that as being one of the main reasons that the Longhorns didn't get in the college football playoff last year. Everyone wants to say, don't play Ohio State, play Tennessee Tech, go 10-2, and you're in. Well, lose to Ohio State and just beat Florida, you're also in. So it goes both ways. But getting back to Sarkisian, yeah, man, this is the type of setup that he has always been building for at Texas, where you have the Heisman contending quarterback in Arch Manning. That's another thing not enough people want to talk about, is how well he played down the stretch last season, taking care of the football, getting the football into the end zone with both his arms and his legs. Now he has options to do that with Cam Coleman. Ryan Wingo is going to be made better by playing alongside Cam Coleman. Texas goes and gets two of the best running backs in the portal, in Hollywood Smothers and Raleek Brown. The offense is loaded. The offensive line needs to come together and needs to play better than it did last year, obviously. But I wrote an article on Sunday, and it got some good publicity, where I think the defense is going to be the strength of this Texas team. And not enough people are talking about that. Colin Simmons is one of the best football players at any position in the nation. You've got a returning veteran in Jelani McDonald at safety. Like, every position that you look at on defense, you point to Rasheem Biles, the transfer from Pitt, at linebacker. You go, yeah, that's a top 5 player at his position in college football. So what's stopping these guys from really putting the hammer down on all these opponents? It's just going to be interesting to see how that holds up over the course of 12 games, because I struggle to find a collection of 12 games for anyone's schedule that are tougher than what Texas is about to face from September through the end of November.
One thing that jumped out to me, only 2 are going to be new faces, with the exception. They return every starter except for 2. Left guard, Dylan Sikorsky, and then I believe it was a secondary player, Derek Williams, are the only 2 newcomers. And I say that on top of all the transfers, they return a big core of last year's team, so that continuity is there.
Yeah, but everyone wants to talk about that left guard spot. I'll tell you that right now, Brad, because they feel like without cohesion 5 across the board on the offensive line, then it's going to be a struggle again to protect Arch Manning. And we're hearing that early in fall camp, that the run blocking is excellent because you're blocking for a couple of studs there, and there's some young guys too. Like, no, Texas is not going to have an issue running the football like they did last year. I think that's becoming quite obvious. But can you protect Arch Manning? Can you let him distribute the ball to these wide receivers that I was talking about, who that's another position group where you're saying who's got it better than Texas in terms of Cam Coleman, Ryan Wingo, Emmett Mosley as a top 3, and then 4- and 5-star guys falling in line there who have looked really good in camp. So, yeah, it's the mix of the veterans, like you're saying, and then the younger guys are also just studs, because that's the way Steve Sarkisian's been recruiting at Texas. He gets the guys that he wants. It just all has to come together, and it has to come together against a really tough schedule.
Also have to replace the middle linebacker. My apologies. Ty Anthony Smith, someone that could fill that role. You talked about defense, and I'd be interested. What are your thoughts on this defense? I mean, you got Sarkisian's kind of an offensive guy. The defense, you talked about him being a big component. What leads you to believe that?
How about Will Muschamp coming back to Texas for his
That's
stint?
what I thought you might say.
His second stint in Texas. He's been around the SEC, so we all know him very well. But when he was at Texas, I mean, I was growing up in that era, and I'm like, man, this is what college football is all about. To have a guy like that, as intense as he is, and no stones unturned, he's meticulous. Like he is just like it transcends coordinator as his job title, right? Like he's a master of a defense, and now he's mastering a defense that has, like I said, Colin Simmons, Rasheem Biles. We're hearing that the defensive line is as good at Texas as it's been probably since the Mac Brown era. And I'm not talking the end of the Mac Brown era. I'm talking when things were going well a decade and a half, two decades ago. There's a kid named Justice Terry who's a second-year player. We have it at Inside Texas that he's been the best at his position at defensive tackle. So now you're not just talking about Colin Simmons off the edge. You're talking about dudes in the middle who are disrupting everything. I think the secondary is really talented. So to answer your question, it's the combination of a coach who's been there and does that and done that and knows what he's doing, as well as personnel that if you look at Texas's defense, I don't think Ohio State lost all those guys to the NFL last year. So now when you're looking at defenses across college football, I don't know if you find one more talented than what Texas is working with.
And you would know more than the folks that follow Ole Miss, but Ohio State on September 12th, is that home game? Obviously, it's going to be insane at Darrell K. Royal. Is there any way to put a value on how big of a game that is? I mean, is there a game maybe you guys can point back to where, hey, this was kind of a big game? Because that appears to be one that everyone has circled.
Yeah, I kind of go back to, and obviously this wasn't a Texas home game, but they did get the home and home with Alabama at the very end of Texas's time in the Big 12. So I think we're talking 22-23. And Texas beat Alabama in Tuscaloosa. Nick Saban's last year, right? It ends up being, even with the Crimson Tide getting all the way to the Rose Bowl that year. It's like that. I mean, two blue bloods that now Texas gets to play Alabama a little bit more, obviously, in the future being in the SEC. But before that, I mean, you got to go back to the 60s for those games, right? Those types of games. That's what you're getting here. I actually went to the Ohio State-Texas game last year because Notre Dame played on a Sunday, and I was able to swing Columbus down to Miami for a college football week one unlike any other. And I felt it there, Brad. I was like, this is Texas. This is Ohio State. We're in the shoe. Ends up being a good game, but a clunky one-touchdown type game. I think everyone remembers watching that one. I think this is going to be played a lot better because you have second-year quarterbacks in Julian Sayin and Arch Manning. You have the head coaches who have been at both of these places for a while now, and you have all the talent that they've infiltrated their programs with. Again, to answer your question, no, there's no way to make this as big as it can be because it is absolutely, for my money, it's the number one non-conference game in college football in 2026.
There's some great games on the schedule this year. One I'd like to talk about specifically, the Oklahoma game. That game's always in Dallas in the old Cotton Bowl. Is that a situation where the fans would like to have that back on campus? Maybe they like going to the Cotton Bowl. Maybe they like it at a neutral site. I've always wondered that.
Second Saturday in October means you head to the State Fairgrounds of Texas for Texas versus Oklahoma. And that's what it's always been, and that's what it always should be. I think most fans from both programs would tell you that. There is a little bit of intrigue since we have seen marquee big-time games with these playoff games being on campuses. I think some people think in their minds, what if Texas did have to travel to Norman? What would that look like? But in the regular season, nah, man, it's at the Cotton Bowl, and you split that thing right down to 50. And some of the better Saturdays in college football have centered around that game over the years. And just not recently, because I think it's been quite a while since Oklahoma even scored a touchdown against Texas in that game. But that is something that worries me if you're a Texas fan, though, because something's got to give at some point, right? Like Brent Venables and John Mateer and those guys, they want to get one over on the Longhorns, and that's not going to be an easy game to win for Texas. It never is, even though it may have seemed like it a couple times in the last few that they've played. But to your point, that's going to be a doozy. That's one of the better in-conference SEC games of the year for sure.
Staying on the schedule, we've talked about that Ohio State game in Oklahoma. As you look on the schedule with at Missouri, at LSU, at A&M could be a tricky game later in the year. You host Ole Miss. You host a Florida team that everybody has, the up-and-coming team this year. it's a gauntlet. We get it. What games you kind of looking at and kind of jump out on the page that maybe not, or maybe some marquee matchups?
Yeah, are you out of breath after mentioning all those teams, man? This is like
That's a tough road.
I was having a conversation with some guys on the beat yesterday before Steve Sarkisian spoke to us, and I told them I don't think we're talking about the Ole Miss game enough, guys. Like there's OU, there's OSU, there's always Texas A&M at the end of the year again. But right in the middle there's probably maybe the best quarterback in college football coming to your place. And like, you're going to have to show up. Like you can't take that week off, or else Trinidad Chambliss will put 30, 40 points on you. Like he's that type of quarterback. And like I was saying, Ole Miss has ascended to the type of program where, I expect them to go 10-2, 11-1, and make the college football playoff. So that's a big one. I talked about LSU earlier. I don't think we're talking about LSU enough with Lane Kiffin. Like, going to Baton Rouge is never easy. And with him there and the way the crowd's going to be going, that's going to be a tough game for Texas. We talked about Ohio State. We talked about OU. But then there's Texas A&M too. Like, that's another rival that Texas has gotten the better of the last 2 years that's going to be hosting Texas at home. And Mike Elko is a very good football coach, and he's going to be saying, this is our year, guys. Like, this is the time that we beat Texas. So there's just so many different weeks that you look at if you're the Longhorns where you're like, man, if we're not all the way on our stuff, this team is going to get the best of us because everybody wants to beat Texas. And there's a lot of teams that can beat Texas on this year's schedule.
Tyler Horka, kind enough to give us a few minutes from Inside Texas, an affiliate of On3. I've left the most important question till the end, Tyler. I hope you're ready for this. You've got the Ole Miss fans' ear here. I need our top 3 restaurant locations in Austin for when the Rebels come to face the Longhorns on October 24th.
I love this question, and I've actually been able to get to one of them. I've been back for 10 days, by the way, Brad, and I've seen a couple football practices, and we're covering football at Inside Texas every single day, but you got to make time for some good grub, right? Matt's El Rancho for your Mexican food, margaritas, that type of thing. It's phenomenal. You've got to throw some barbecue in there for sure. So I'm going to go with my personal favorite, and this gets a little heated. I like Terry Black's, but if you're more of, hey, I want to wake up early before the game and go do the stand in line thing, either go to Love Barbecue or Franklin Barbecue. They're both on the east side, not too far away from campus. But also, if you don't want to wait in line to get your food and not eat until noon, even though you've been up since 6 a.m. or whatever, go to Juan in a Million. It's also on the east side. Breakfast tacos. I think it's been featured on the Food Network. Like, my dad swears by it. I swear by it. Used to go all the time when I was in school here. So that's a pretty solid top 3. Covers a few of your bases there.
That's awesome. He's Tyler Horka from Inside Texas. You can follow all of his work on free, and that's Inside Texas or TB Horka on X. Tyler, thanks very much for jumping on, and we will see you in Austin in a couple of months.
Can't wait. Thank you very much.